Welcome to Quantum Matrix Radio. I'm Pamela Senzee, your host, and co-host for the show, David Meiswinkle, is on an extended sabbatical, and we wish him well as he carries on with his many projects, and hopefully we'll be able to update us on those in sometime in the near future. So we're wishing David very well as he carries on with his business. Our guest today is a Quantum Matrix radio regular, and we are going to get into some very interesting subjects. We also want to talk to her about her recent campaign, her recent run for Congress, which she had a very, very respectable independent run for a congressional seat there in California. And we definitely want to hear about that and some of the other very, very exciting projects that she's involved in. She's going to fill us in. And we're also going to talk about something that has been in the mainstream news, surprisingly, and that is an aspect of 9/11 that involves, apparently, Saudi Arabia. And as you know, 15 of the 19 hijackers, I believe that's the correct number, were Saudi Arabians. And we have some interesting things about them as well, which a lot of you are familiar with, them or the composite characters that they represented. But at any rate, our guest today is none other than Barbara Honegger. Barbara Honegger is a leading investigator, author, and public speaker on 9/11, focused especially on the Pentagon attack. She has given invited presentations at dozens of 9/11 conferences and events in the U.S., Canada, and Europe. From 1995 to 2011, Ms. Honegger served as senior military affairs journalist at the Naval Postgraduate School, the premier science, technology, and national security affairs graduate research university of the Department of Defense, from which position she had access to the highest level military and civilian officials of the Bush-Cheney administration to piece together the inside story of the Pentagon attack. For nearly a decade and a half, she has published the cumulative results and analysis of those findings, which refute both the official story as well as much of what the 9/11 truth movement has been led to believe happened at the nation's military headquarters on September 11th. Ms. Honegger has served in high-level positions in the U.S. federal government, including White House Policy Analyst, Special Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy, and Director of the Attorney General's Anti-Discrimination Law Review at the Department of Justice. Her pioneering book, October Surprise, on the true deep story behind the Iran side of the Iran-Contra scandal, subsequently confirmed by formerly classified documents, led to a full subpoena power U.S. House of Representatives investigation funded at the level of the 9/11 Commission. Her 9/11 publications include Behind the Smoke Curtain, What Happened at the Pentagon on 9/11 and What Didn't, and Why It Matters, which has over 180,000 views on YouTube and is available as a professional DVD on Amazon.com. Please get that video. You will very much appreciate it. Chapter 13 of the Toronto 9/11 report, a summary of the evidence for pre-placed explosives as the real story at the Pentagon, just as at the World Trade Center. The Pentagon attack papers published as the appendix to New York Times best-selling author Jim Marrs' 9/11 books, The Terror Conspiracy and The Terror Conspiracy Revisited, the Scarlet A, the anthrax links to 9/11, and we will have a link to that in this in the show page, so you can look that up as well as Behind the Smoke Curtain. The Scarlet A, the anthrax links to 9/11, featured as a front-page article in the independent Washington, D.C. newspaper, the Rock Creek Free Press, and reprinted by Op-Ed News. And as announced by Richard Gage, AIA, founder of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, on the 2014 September 11th anniversary, the 9/11 Museum Virtual Walking Tour, which is an astonishing documentary film, also on YouTube, and I believe also on Amazon. We'll clarify that with Barbara, which uses the exhibit items in the official 9/11 museum itself to prove that the official story is a lie, and which can be watched and listened to with smartphones and earbuds inside the actual museum at Ground Zero. So if you're going to take the tour, take this with you. And a tale of two cities, disturbing parallels between U.S. and French 9/11s. And the 2015 book, We Are Not Charlie Hebdo. Ms. Honegger is one of the founding 50 current and former high-level government, military, and intelligence officials to call for a new September 11 investigation at patriotsquestion911.com. Many the high-ranking patriots, high-ranking military and intelligence officials who've blown the whistle and asked the hard questions are on that site, patriotsquestion911.com, and one of the 20, or she is also one of the 20 original charter members of Political Leaders for 9/11 Truth. She received a BA in Writing and Communications from Stanford University and a Master's in Psychology from John F. Kennedy University, both in California. She did graduate work in Neuropsychology of Human and Primate Communications at Stanford and earned a master's level certification in National Security Decision-Making from the Naval War College. Okay. She's astonishing. We're glad to have her on the show. Welcome, Barbara.
Well, thanks. Every time I hear that, I wonder who did all that. It couldn't possibly be me.
We had all of our huge staff here behind the scenes putting this all together and staying up all night with coffee.
I mean, I haven't lived long enough to do all that. It must be somebody else.
Well, you've got friends, that's for sure. That is for sure, and I'm one of them, very proud to be. So tell us about, first, after having said, you know what, let's do our moment of silence, Barbara. I know that's something that you value just as much as I do, and let's just kind of get into that and get into that higher vibration before we do the show. Will you join me?
All right, and if it's okay with you, let's remember being together at the fountain at the U.S. Congress.
Yes, I love our fountain story. Here we are at the fountain, and I'll play. We'll do water with this segment because what's such a wonderful experience. Yes. All right then. Okay, thank you so much. And I was when we were at the fountain, I was definitely praying for the country and for humanity, and so that was a turning point experience. So it's really important. I really appreciate, I value the work that we're able to do with you and your times on the show, because you are one person who, as a researcher and all the other things that you do in these really extraordinarily difficult subjects, who has the faith and the attitude that we can break through all of this, that we can get to the other side. And you just recently had an exciting run for Congress, got a lot of information out there. Got a lot more people to listen to your message, and I think that's extremely exciting. Tell us about it. You were on the show while you were in it, and now it's run its course. Tell us some stories.
Right. So about my run for Congress here in California's Central Coast region. It's California Congressional District 20. Monterey Peninsula, for people who know California, Santa Cruz, Monterey, Pacific Grove, Carmel, that area. And I was called to run for Congress, internally called by what I call the force, because I partner with a force, as you know, so do you. And that was back in late February, early March. You had to have your petition signatures in and your fee paid by, I think it was March 16th, something like that. And then I hit the ground running. And the most exciting thing is that, seriously, I got so much 9/11 truth out in our mainstream media. Here in the Central Coast of California, front page of our local newspaper, a respectful article, long article. It was called Honegger, Candidate with a Cause. And when you even read the first paragraph, the cause was 9/11 truth. And drive time radio on our local radio station, an interview with Louis Peter, who was the deputy editor of the Los Angeles Times. Respectful 45-minute interview that you can still see on. I'll give you the links to that if you don't have it already. You can put it up on the webpage. And you'll see how hard-hitting he allowed me to go public with on 9/11. So it really was very successful. Now, of course, I was hoping to get on the November ballot. That didn't happen, as it turned out, because people here, like many places around the country, blindly vote their party affiliation. So our congressional district is about 75% registered Democrats, and lo and behold, not coincidentally, the only Democrat on the ballot, there were 5 of us running, got about 75% of the vote. And what was important about this race to me, besides all of the 9/11 facts that I got out in the mainstream media and in every single candidate forum that I was in, they used to be called candidate debates, now they're called candidate forums, with the other 4 candidates, I actually educated the man who is almost certainly going to be our representative in Congress about 9/11 truth in these candidate forums. And his name is James Panetta. And he is the son of Leon Panetta, who was the CIA director and Secretary of Defense and represented our congressional district here for almost 2 decades before he became Clinton's chief of staff in the White House. So that was back in 1993 when, as you may recall, Clinton's, I forget who his first chief of staff was, but that person resigned or was asked to leave. And then President Bill Clinton tapped Leon Panetta, who was then our representative in Congress in the House of Representatives. He tapped Leon Panetta to be his White House chief of staff, and that opened up the race for Congress, a special race, midterm race, here in our congressional district. And I ran for the seat back in 1993 as well. I did very well then, and I did very well now, but as expected, the Democrats got the most votes. And then the number 2 slot came in on this race that our primary was on June 7th by the Republican who got a whole lot less than the Democrat, but she did get number 2, simply because she's a Republican. And so I was the top independent vote getter. I did very well, but the important thing is I got out 9/11 truth, and I got it into the head of Leon Panetta's son. And one of the greatest events or moments in the whole campaign, which lasted about 3 months because the primary was on June 7th, just past this month, earlier this month in June, after one of our candidate forums, which was carried live on our local public access TV, where I came out hard-hitting on 9/11 truth on our local TV station. And by the way, our local public access TV station endorsed me for the run for Congress. And
wow.
So in the parking lot after this candidate forum debate, my car happened to be parked next to Leon Panetta's son's SUV. So I took the opportunity to get into my car and pull out 2 copies of the DVD Behind the Smoke Curtain. And I went over to Jimmy and I said, Jimmy, great candidate forum. I'm really enjoying this process with you here, because I'd mentioned Behind the Smoke Curtain, which is on YouTube, now with close to 200,000 views on the main YouTube alone. So I handed him 2 copies of the DVD, the professional DVD of Behind the Smoke Curtain on the Pentagon attack, and I said, Jimmy, this one's for you, and the second one's for your dad. So he took them. And it wasn't long before, after the next candidate forum, which was in Seaside, California, after that, when one of the other candidates came up to me in the parking lot and he said, could I have one of those DVDs too?
Oh, wow.
And he was endorsed by the Bernie Sanders Democrats in Santa Cruz. So I've educated an awfully lot of people. That's the good news. And I'm actually considering a write-in campaign in October before the early November election. Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
I'm actually considering that. So it was a great process. I got the word out, and my plan is to run again against Jimmy Panetta. He's almost certainly going to be our representative for 2 years, but he has to run against me every 2 years. So I put him on notice. He's got to run against me 2 years from now.
I love it. I love it. That is just so wonderful. Yeah, you're amazing, and just don't tire with getting this message out. It's a wonderful thing to watch.
You and I are like the Energizer bunnies of the 9/11.
Well,
we have to replace our batteries every once in a while.
Yeah, really. Yeah, and there's actually quite a few Energizer bunnies out there, thank God.
Yeah.
But so tell us now, you're also involved in some very exciting plans for the anniversary coming up and what's going to take place in New York City. So do you want to talk about that yet, or can you spill the beans on some of that?
I can tell you what we can tell you, what we've nailed down, and it's very exciting. So in the next 2 weeks, everybody in the 9/11 Truth Movement is going to be getting, I'm sure, from Les Jameson, who is, the co-founder and current head, has been for years, of the 9/11 Truth Group in New York City, which of course is ground zero for 9/11 Truth, literally. And in about 2 weeks or less even, he's going to be putting out a save the date email blast. And the dates to save, if you can be in New York City, are the weekend of September 10th and 11th. That's Saturday, September 10th this year, and Sunday, September 11th. There will be 2 back-to-back events. They're technically separate events, but they're being held at the same venue. I'll tell you what that is in a minute. They're being held at the same place, and they're being coordinated by the organizers of the 2 events. And they're being held probably beginning around 10 a.m. in the morning, with doors opening at 9 a.m. each day. They're being held at a very prestigious venue this year, at Columbia University. So we are holding them at the Faculty Club. I think they technically call it the Faculty House at Columbia University in New York City. And the first event on Saturday, September 10th, the main organizer for that is Les Jameson, as usual, and that will be the main worldwide 9/11 conference for the 15th anniversary coming up. And the exciting news is, And this was because of my initiative and all my work. It was my vision, my initiative, and my work that successfully brought this into fruition. But we have just received, I have just received, and passed it on to Les Jameson, the acceptance of the invitation to fly to New York from Rome and speak at both days, Saturday and Sunday, September 10th and 11th, Judge Ferdinando Imposimoto, who is the President of the Supreme Court of Italy. And this is very exciting.
Awesome.
Very exciting.
Yes.
He will also be at the second day. So the second day is Sunday, September 11th. And the second day is being put on by the Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Investigation. This is an independent committee. It's a 501c3. Been working now for very, very seriously for about a year and a half on bringing the real perpetrators to justice in a real, legitimate legal venue. So the entire second day on September 11th, also at Columbia University Faculty House, will be this event bringing together attorneys, high-level attorneys from around the world, including Judge Imposimoto. Judge Imposimoto, by the way, when he was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Italy. He's now retired from that highest level post. That would be like the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States coming to one of our conferences. And when Judge Imposimoto was an investigative magistrate in Rome and also then became elevated to be the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Italy, during that period he personally investigated and successfully prosecuted the Gladio operation cases. And the Gladio operation, of course, was the CIA, the Pentagon, and NATO were the real perpetrators behind heinous terrorist attacks on innocent civilians in Europe, especially in Italy. And in order to blame it on the communists and the socialists and the left wing, whenever a left-wing candidate was getting close to winning an election in Italy, they would kill a bunch of people and blame it on the communists or the socialists to try to sway the vote. It's a heinous thing to do. And Judge Imposimoto was the investigative magistrate and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in Italy that proved that the explosives that were used to kill innocent civilians in the Bologna train station bombing came from the NATO base in Italy.
God.
So he is coming, and he is going to be speaking both days at our 15th anniversary conference in New York City at Columbia University Faculty House, Saturday and Sunday, September 10th and 11th. And he is going to be, his main message is that 9/11 was bringing the Gladio inside job, deep state terrorist attacks home to our own country.
Yep.
9/11 was a U.S. Gladio operation.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's actually,
which is something you have. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, that's also, of course, last October, I was invited to Rome to speak to an event, just myself. Judge Imposimoto was there. Mr. Chiesa was there. A good, close, longtime friend of his who did the movie Zero, the 9/11 film Zero. He was very instrumental in I think he's one of the producers and maybe even a director of the 9/11 documentary called Zero. And he was there. So I actually spoke in Rome and met the judge for the second time last October in Rome. And because of meeting him personally and making that connection, I was able to invite him to come to our big conference this year. And he just
accepted. That is awesome.
And himself just accepted. I just invited, after checking, of course, with the organizers, on their behalf, I just invited Daniel Sheehan, who is a world-famous attorney, and he has just accepted speaking at both events.
Very good. Daniel's going to be there in New York City on the anniversary?
Correct.
Wow.
Yes. And we're also inviting William Pepper, who of course is the attorney who successfully brought the case on behalf of Martin Luther King's wife and children. For the proving that James Earl Ray wasn't the real shooter in a civil case after the government put out its lie that James Earl Ray was the only shooter who killed Martin Luther King. And he's also the attorney for Sirhan, whom he has proven did not fire the lethal shot or shots that killed Robert Kennedy. So we hope to have William Pepper as the Master of Ceremonies, and we will have Daniel Sheehan. Daniel Sheehan is the world-famous attorney who was the successful attorney on behalf of the New York Times in the Pentagon Papers case. He was the successful lead attorney in the Karen Silkwood case. He was the attorney in the Iran-Contra case, and on and on and on. So we're going to have a major event there in New York City, as well as many other speakers.
How exciting. How absolutely exciting. Now, David, our friend David Meiswinkle has been reading. He's probably finished by now Daniel Sheehan's book, which includes those cases, and he was just so excited about it. He said it was just what a fabulous career.
Yeah, Daniel Sheehan, we call him Danny. Anybody who knows him calls him Danny Sheehan. But his book, that has been out a couple of years or so, is called The People's Advocate. And it's available on Amazon. I highly recommend it. And also, I will send you the links if you don't already have them. Daniel Sheehan was recently 4 Fridays in a row for 2 hours each for a total of 8 hours interviewed by Gary Knoll out of New York City. And those interviews are mind-blowing revelations of the CIA's central involvement with Adolf Hitler, with the Nazis, and with the JFK assassination, and he even named names for 9/11. So I will send you those links, and hopefully we can get those links for people to be able to hear 8 hours of Daniel Sheehan going public with the most explosive information you've ever heard in your life, which I happen to know, being a 30-year friend of his. I happen to know basically the content of his second book, which he is completing and which he hopes will be out at the end of the year or early next year in 2017.
Yeah, very exciting. Absolutely, totally exciting. And I had the privilege of meeting Mr. Sheehan there in his office. You introduced us when David and I were there interviewing you, and the gambles for our film Truth Walk, which people can support. Just give a little pitch here that people can support at qmamedia.com. We have an address they can donate at, or they can just simply click on the donate button on the podcast page, and it'll all be right there. They can also become monthly supporters. And we do need your help. We need your help to make this a fabulous film and complete it in a wonderful way. We have some great people that are interviewed for the film, and you are also in that film and have been part of this project. So, at any rate,
you dragged me kicking and screaming to Foster and Kimberly Hamill's house, to that beautiful house.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to drag you. More like you dragged us, right? That was wonderful. Yeah. So we lots of exciting things are happening. You know, a lot of the thing that I have been focused on in just as an activist for really some time has, and certainly it was part of the bicycle trek, was changing the paradigm, not getting stuck in this rut of, oh my gosh, it's all so big and it's all so overwhelming, and what can we do? And it really being able to change it. And you are one who has that attitude as well, and I'm seeing it. Things are happening, Barbara. My goodness, things are really happening.
They are, and we're going to talk about what's happening, too.
Yes. Something exciting has just happened, the passage of a bill that got through the House. Talk about that. Let's go into JASTA.
Got through the Senate.
Or the Senate.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it? Yeah, let's go ahead and let me just preface this for people. We're going to get into the whole Saudi connection, what it means, what maybe the mainstream would like to lead us to believe that it means, but then there's some deeper stuff there too, because these hijackers, some of them are either fictional or some of them have claimed to, people have come out of the woodwork and said, hey, I'm not a hijacker, I'm alive and well here, piloting a plane for Saudi Air or whatever. I mean,
right.
So we want to get into what all of it means, but definitely going up to the level of Prince Bandar, also known as Bandar Bush, so close to the Bush family that they're just schmoozy holding hand buddies. They're really a sweet pair. And he and his wife are connected. They're implicated, are they not, in this whole thing that's coming forth, the implications of the 28 pages and them being declassified, and this JASTA passing the Senate, which opens the door for a lot to happen. Tell us about it.
Right. Okay. Well, I guess the big picture bumper sticker takeaway from what we're going to talk about now, this is the real meat of the program, is that 9/11 truth, at least the beginning of it, has gone mainstream, big time, in the past few months. And what has happened, I want to talk about JASTA first, because of all that we could talk about, JASTA is by far the most important. So what is JASTA? JASTA is an acronym, JASTA, and that stands for the name of a bill that if it's passed by both houses of Congress, it would become law. And that stands for, I believe, at last I looked, Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act, JASTA. So what's so important about JASTA is that as we are speaking, and for many years now, close to 3,000 9/11 victims' families and close to 6,000 9/11 victims' family members and survivors have been plaintiffs in a case. They've been trying to get into the courts against Saudi Arabia for what they claim is a direct, quite central Saudi connection to the 9/11 planning and attacks, to the conspiracy to carry out the attacks and to the attacks. Well, JASTA is important because for the first time in U.S. history, JASTA, if it passed into law, it's called pierce the shield of immunity of any foreign country, not just Saudi Arabia, any foreign country. In other words, any country but the United States. That's too bad because we need to bring 9/11 truth home to the U.S. in terms of the court system. However, JASTA would only pierce the so-called sovereign immunity of every other country but the U.S. if that other country was involved in any way in terrorist attacks against U.S. citizens in our own country, on our own soil. Well, that's 9/11, right? That's also Oklahoma City. That's also World Trade Center Attack 93, and quite a few others, okay, if you dig deeply into them. But the main one is 9/11. So the important thing about JASTA is the 9/11 victims' family members who, they're the main force behind the JASTA bill. And just within the past month, the Senate of the United States voted unanimously, 100-0, on a voice vote, not a roll call vote, but a voice vote, like yay or nay, right? On a voice vote, they voted unanimously in favor of JASTA and have now sent the bill to the House of Representatives where it sits. Okay. So you have all Republicans and all Democrats just recently voting to allow the government officials and the governments per se of every foreign country on the planet, including Israel, technically, including Britain, technically, not just Saudi Arabia, if they are found to have been involved credibly in attacks on even a single American citizen on our own soil. Okay? So,
well, this I just have to say, this is the plethora of material out there that this could, dig into is really unfathomable, because that's what I have come to see in my research and in doing this show, that there is just a beast out there that transcends national sovereignty and is a financial beast that connects all sorts of financial powers and military deals covertly, and uses governments or factions within governments to make things happen. And I was unaware, you may have been aware, but I was unaware that Bandar Bush himself had something like $2 billion in kickbacks for an oil for arms deal that he brokered with Margaret Thatcher.
Right, that's come out just recently. Yes, more confirmation of that.
And we have no idea, well, we probably do. I have no idea at this point where those arms ended up, because Saudi Arabia, we're talking about a really brutal regime, actually.
We're talking about
that is a close ally.
Well, it's not really an ally. That's what we're getting at with JASTA, because Congress is waking up. Congress is waking up to the fact, now that ISIS is beheading people and sending videos around, they've gone over the line, and members of Congress are finally waking up to the fact that we can no longer have Saudi Arabia as an ally. But that's very problematic, because the value of the dollar is based upon this deal that Henry Kissinger cut with Saudi Arabia for the OPEC oil to be denominated and bought and sold in dollars around the world. So there's the United States economy would take a big hit if JASTA passed, and the Saudis have actually, the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia publicly threatened to pull out, to sell all U.S. bonds and all other assets that they hold in United States bonds and other United States properties if JASTA passed. It's that big.
Yeah.
And Obama has threatened to veto JASTA. So we basically had a revolution by both the Democrats and the Republicans voting unanimously for JASTA. They are saying no to this global domination neocon agenda. They're saying no to the continued wars. They're saying no to what they know behind the scenes is the Western sponsorship through the Saudis, especially their funding of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. They're starting to stand up in Congress. And this is a very, very, very good thing. And the people of the United States, their 9/11 Truth movement has been phenomenally successful to get things to this point. So between the 9/11 Truth movement, bringing the forensic fact from the bottom up in a grassroots education campaign of not just our country but the world, on the one hand, and the 9/11 victims' family members through these official court cases that they're trying to get the courts to allow to move forward, and they need JASTA to pass to allow it. Because the judges keep saying, sorry, they keep removing the Saudis, these Saudi government officials, including Bandar Bush, who is the Saudi ambassador to the United States before, during, and after 9/11. And according to the 28 pages of the House Senate Intelligence Report that are still classified to this day, for those who have read them in secure, compartmented, classified reading rooms in the House and the Senate, and have leaked some information about the 28 pages, we know that they actually mention Bandar Bush, Prince Bandar, who was so close to President George W. Bush and George Bush Sr. and the whole Bush crime family that they call him Bandar Bush, like a member of their family. So as Kevin Ryan said in an excellent article that I hope that you could link on the webpage for this show, I believe the title of his article was Saudi links to 9/11 mean U.S. links to 9/11. And by that he means in particular Bandar Bush, who was U.S. ambassador, the ambassador to the United States from Saudi Arabia on 9/11.
Yes, that's a crucial point. Bandar Bush, Bandar Bush, Bush Bandar. You know, they're like the Bopsy twins or something.
Right.
So it's important. 28
pages points a finger at Bandar Bush once they come out, and there's also incredible movement on the 28 pages. Now, Obama, as many of your listeners know probably already, when he actually after he was elected, before he even took office back in early 2009, January 20th, 2009, before that he promised at least some of the Jersey girls and other victims' family members of the 9/11 attacks, he promised them that during his term in office he would release the 28 pages. He hasn't so far. So he passed the buck to the Director of National Intelligence, General James Clapper, and the Director of the CIA, John Brennan. Well, John Brennan, guess what, was CIA station chief in, guess where, Saudi Arabia, and is close friends also with, guess who, Prince Bandar Bush. So it's taken almost 8 years for CIA Director John Brennan. He hasn't been CIA Director the whole time, of course. Leon Panetta was CIA Director and others before, but for a number of years, John Brennan has been CIA Director and is today. And it's taken many, many years for him to come around and finally say on mainstream media, which he did only about 10 days ago, that the pressure was obviously put on him by somebody, probably Obama, and the vote in the Senate, the unanimous vote for the JASTA bill. He finally came out on Saudi Arabia mainstream media about 10 days ago or so, 2 weeks at the most, and said that he now favors the 28 pages to be declassified and released, and that he now thinks they should be. Well, he doesn't really, but the pressure was put on. Somebody twisted his arm to say that. They have not yet been released, but the information that we last had was that the prediction was that they would be released sometime in June, and we're still in June. So this could happen. I don't think it's going to happen before Congress comes back from the 4th of July recess. So probably early July now. I fully expect the 28 pages to be released. And when they are released,
okay.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay.
So when they are released, assuming they are released, from what we already know about them, they point the fingers at Bandar Bush and his wife. They point the fingers at Saudi officials connected directly to the Saudi embassy, where Bandar Bush was the main Saudi ambassador to the United States. And they also, interestingly, name, we are told by those who have read them, the 28 pages, they also name, allegedly, interestingly, only 2 of the alleged 19 hijackers, 15 of which were Saudis, allegedly. So only 2 of these alleged 19 hijackers are even named, we're told, in the 28 pages. And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
They were both on the alleged Pentagon attack plan. Not World Trade Center, not Pennsylvania, Pentagon. And as you know, the Pentagon attack is my specialty, my
expertise. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right. So the problem with the 28 pages being released, and it's a big problem, it is, and forgive the pun, I know I said this before we started recording this show, but I thought of this the other day and I chuckled when I did, but the 28 pages, when they are released, will be the Saudi camel's nose in the tent. Those 28 pages, when they are released, are going to cause a firestorm of attention to the evidence in it, the claims in the pages, that Saudi Arabia was complicit before 9/11 in bringing the alleged hijackers to this country, especially those 2 alleged Pentagon plane hijackers, bringing them to this country in January of 2000. That's a year and a half, almost over a year and a half before 9/11. In January of 2000, bringing them to this country, Saudi officials finding a place for them to stay, even with the Saudi official in the same place he lived, paying for them, getting their residence, making sure they were protected, getting them money, and we believe making sure that they weren't apprehended before the attack so that they could in fact carry them out successfully. So now that's all assuming there were any hijackers involved on 9/11. And there we get the rub. Because for those of us who have carefully studied the 9/11 attacks and the lack of evidence that any of the alleged 19 hijackers even got on any of the 4 planes, we don't have any confirmed evidence of that whatsoever. And as you know, and you mentioned earlier as we were talking on this show, that a minimum of 6, and according to the best research I've seen, as many as 10 that we know of already of the alleged 19 hijackers were still alive after they allegedly were killed in a big fireball on 9/11. They were still alive.
Right.
And the FBI, after the attacks, admitted publicly that whoever the alleged hijackers, quote, really were, unquote, they must not have been all of the names that the FBI originally claimed were the hijackers, but were using stolen identities. But the FBI never changed the list. The names
never changed the list.
Hijackers. Never changed the list.
In your film, the virtual walking tour, the 9/11 Museum virtual walking tour, you talk about how there's a poster that's almost sort of hidden. You know, it's just off in the corner of the hijackers, like just a sort of a token. It's the same ones, isn't it?
Yes.
Nobody got knocked off the list.
That's right. Now, I do want to correct what I just said slightly. At the very beginning, the FBI did do a little bit of song and dance about the names of 1 or 2 of the hijackers, but But once the 19 names were out there, they didn't change them again, even after acknowledging when the BBC revealed that some of the people whose names were on the list of the 19 were still alive, at least 6 of them. And you will see that in behind this, not behind the smoke curtain, you will see that in, as you said, the 9/11 Museum virtual walking tour, which is on YouTube. And the section on the hijackers that you're talking about begins at about just before 10 minutes in, about 9 minutes and 50 to 55 seconds in. So if anybody goes to YouTube and they plug in 9/11, that's with a slash, 9/11 Museum Virtual Walking Tour, watch the whole thing. But if you want to get to the section on the hijackers, which is about 5 minutes, which will blow your mind, that begins at about 10 minutes into it. And it is a very, very, very good summary of these of the fact that there is really no definitive evidence that the hijacker story on 9/11 is true at all.
I mean, people need to stop and think about what this means. I mean, just this, only this particular aspect of the huge abyss of, I mean, just the endless material that challenges the official story, good material, solid material, hard science, forensic evidence, all of it. But if you just took this one thing, they even admit uncertainty about all of these hijackers, the so-called hijackers, and yet just keep them on there. Nobody, right. No decent investigation would do that. You just wouldn't even do that, and they do it. It's right in your face.
That's right. That's right. And so let's tie this back now to the 28 pages in the JASTA.
Okay.
Because the 28 pages, we are told by those who have read them, and we expect them to be released pretty soon, probably in July.
Wow.
Those 28 pages, we are told by those who've read them, only refer to 2 of the alleged 19 hijackers who happen to have been on the alleged Pentagon plane. Now, here's the problem. If these hijackers didn't get on any of the planes, and there's no evidence they did, any of them, including the 2 that are in the 28 pages, then they couldn't have been on the plane that was at the Pentagon. They couldn't have been piloting the plane. They couldn't be responsible for the Pentagon attack. So what's the big deal about the 28 pages then? Okay, so the problem for those who bring out the 28 pages is it's going to open up, when they come out, a huge can of worms, and that's what we want. We want the whole Pandora's box to burst open, because all they have to do is start talking about these 2 alleged hijackers on the Pentagon plane. And all the Saudis need to do, if the JASTA bill is passed, and the 9/11 victims' family members, 6,000 of them, are allowed to continue with their court case against the Saudis for what's in the 28 pages, all the Saudis have to do, Pam, is bring the still alive hijackers into the courtroom. Right? Right.
That would be a, boy, they'll fall out of my chair if I saw that. Man, oh man.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is very important. And I, by the way, Kevin Barrett, Professor Kevin Barrett, one of my absolutely favorite people in the movement, and I recently, about, I guess, what is it now, 2 months ago at the most, we were for the first time ever, the Left Forum. It's called the Left Forum, which is the largest gathering of progressives in one place, in a conference, in a gathering in the country once a year. And the Left Forum was held recently in New York City. And for the first time in 15 years, since 9/11, they allowed an explicit 9/11 panel. And the two invited speakers on 9/11 were Professor Kevin Barrett and myself. So I'm going to send you, if you don't have it already, the link to our panel, our presentations on the 28 pages, and 9/11 at the Left Forum. And it's a blockbuster. So this is now on YouTube. I think it's on YouTube. Anyway, I've got it's on the internet one way or the other. I will send you the link so that anyone can watch it. And if anybody wanted to watch a concise presentation of 9/11 facts and the 28 pages, what they prove and what they don't prove, I would recommend that people start with that link on your website after this show.
Okay. Yeah. Very good.
Now, I think we probably want to talk about Mr. Richard Lambert.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And you were on the show really for an emergency show a year ago, a little over a year ago maybe, when one of the the investigator in charge of Amerithrax had come out and basically called the investigation a sham. And something you reported on the show is that he was not even given the DNA on the letters, which is just a stunning, what would you call it? I mean, obstruction of an investigation by the body that, you know.
The FBI lab withheld the evidence that they had DNA from the envelopes that held the anthrax and the anthrax attacks letters. The FBI's own lab withheld that knowledge and evidence from the purported head of their own anthrax letter investigation called Amerithrax, which is Richard Lambert, an FBI investigator and officer. And what we just learned the other day in the front page article in the New York Times on, of all things, the JASTA bill and the 28 pages and the stir in Washington that this is causing, that they are causing. I learned, I'm the one who caught it. About halfway down in that article, there was a bombshell. It revealed that a man, an FBI investigating officer by the name of Richard Lambert, was also put by the FBI in charge of, guess what? The investigation of the very two alleged Pentagon plane hijackers who are in the 28 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting, and it is. We have followed up with research, and it is the same. It is that Richard Lambert. Now? I wish we could pull him out and talk to him and pick his brain. Since his complaint filed a year and a few months ago, I think it was something like April of 2015. I haven't heard of this. There's nothing has been reported that I can.
He lost his case. It was thrown out by the judge.
Oh crap!
And because now the people need to be reminded what the case was. So this is a very high-ranking investigative officer of the FBI, whom the FBI director, I believe that was then Robert Mueller, but anyway, whoever was FBI director at the time, right after 9/11, that was Robert Mueller, put him in charge of the entire anthrax letter attacks investigation. And we just learned the other day from the New York Times front page article, Robert Mueller, head of the FBI, also put the same man, Richard Lambert, in charge of the so-called investigation, actually a cover-up, of the two alleged Pentagon plane hijackers who are in the 28 pages that are still classified. They were classified by President George W. Bush, and they've still been allowed to remain classified by President Obama to this day. They're expected to be released shortly. Now, this Richard Lambert, about a little over a year ago, he filed a court case. He's no longer in the FBI. He retired. He filed a court case, a complaint in court. I believe it was Colorado, but in any case, in federal court, complaining that he was in the complaint. We learn all of these claims that he was railroaded, that the anthrax investigation was a cover-up, that the FBI's own lab wouldn't give him the information about DNA being on the envelopes, presumably from somebody licking the seal of the envelope.
Sure.
And the reason for that, of course, even though he didn't say so explicitly, was that the DNA obviously didn't match that of the FBI's fall guy for the anthrax letter attacks, Bruce Ivan, or else they would have released the DNA. So he filed this court case, and it was basically an employment-related complaint, which he lost. So the fact that the judge did not allow it to go forward, or I don't know if they didn't allow it to go forward, or if he actually lost it in an official ruling. But regardless, I was told by the 9/11 attorneys group the other day that he, quote, lost, unquote, the case. So the very fact that he's lost, he probably has a big chip on his shoulder and should, or maybe a big cross on his shoulder, and somebody should get to him and ask him to now go public. I don't think he has anything to lose. He was invited to last year's 9/11 conference in New York City, and he declined because he said his court case was still ongoing, but it no longer is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boy.
So I think you should try to get him to come on your show. I do know that Bill Jacoby, who is Richard Gage has appointed Bill Jacoby to be the head of the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth related regional political organization action project. And Bill Jacoby, I know, does have Richard Lambert's email.
Okay, well maybe Bill will pass that information on. That would be incredible and awesome, and I'd love to talk to Mr. Lambert and honor his whistleblowing. And I also would love to have him on the show, and whether he will or not, I'd like to encourage him to write a book. To get the info, we have to be telling the truth. We've got to get the truth out, and if they try to stop us, we've got to do what you do, Barbara Honegger. You just keep going around and up and over and through, and everything it takes, because this is a guy who knows something. Never give up. You just keep on going. Never give up. Never give up.
Because, this is a zero-sum game, and if we never give up, we will win. It's a matter of time.
I love that. I love that. Think about that, folks. Think about that, folks. Say that again, Barbara. That's important. That's important. Think about it.
Well, it's very important. In 15 years of the 9/11 Truth movement, we have never gone backwards. We have always gone forward. We have never given up. We will never give up. And because of that, because we are in a zero-sum game with the liars, and we are the truthers, we will win. It's simply a matter of time and what the final trigger will be. Now, I personally, JASTA is an extremely important bill, because you know the reason that President Obama and Secretary of State John Kerry and Hillary Clinton and all these top-level globalists, you know what their reason is and has been for why they don't want JASTA to pass into law?
What?
The reason they have explicitly given is that, oh my God, we can't have JASTA because if American citizens who have been mass murdered and maimed for life and tortured are able to pierce the sovereign immunity of foreign governments, well, my goodness, foreign citizens can pierce our sovereign immunity and take us to court. In other words, Obama has said he would veto JASTA, but you know what? All you need is 60% of the votes to override a veto, and the Senate's already voted 100-0. So the shots across the bow by the Senate of the United States, they're calling Obama's bluff that he would veto JASTA. So if JASTA passes, and we go after the Saudis or anybody else, we could also go after the Israelis for their involvement in 9/11, the Zionists.
Yeah.
And if we do that, they will go after us. They will go after Bush. They will go after Obama for massacring millions of people in these illegal, unilateral, aggressive wars.
Yeah.
That's why they don't want it. But that's why we need JASTA. We need it because of all things I've ever seen in Washington, D.C. If JASTA passes into law and is acted on, and it will be by the 9/11 victims' family members, it could actually end wars because the people who do the wars will no longer have their shield of invulnerability legally.
Okay. God, oh my God! I mean,
important.
It it could end this whole thing, this strange post-9/11 era that we're in. And let us not forget that the Mossad agents that were investigated very deeply by the FBI after 9/11 that is classified for some odd reason. Okay.
Well, yeah, but they went on. They were finally let go and went back to Israel and went on national TV in Israel and admitted that they had been sent
they were there
to film the event, and they had their cameras rolling, their film rolling, just before World Trade Center 1 was hit. That proved pornography.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there is something there. There is, let me ask you what your thoughts are on the motivation of, these countries that are being in, you probably know more about it than I do. Is there a motivation that has to do with central banking? Libya lost a lot of gold, and Libya had its own banking system. How does that tie into all of this? Because it certainly seems like
our money used to be backed by gold before President Nixon took us off the gold standard, and I believe it was his Secretary of State. Anyway, he sent Kissinger over to Saudi Arabia. We go off the gold standard, but you have to, your money has to be backed by something, or it's just paper you put in your fireplace. So it became backed by OPEC oil. It's backed by this thickly, gooey, black, ugly, dark stuff that we're trying to get off of worldwide so that we could have a clean environment and protect our world. The petrodollar, the dollar is based upon oil. It's based upon OPEC oil being sold in dollars, denominated in dollars in the world marketplace. So if the Saudis pull out of that or renege on that, there will be the Britain leaving the EU is nothing You won't see nothing yet compared to that. However,
Okay.
I believe that that's got to happen. We've got to go through a very difficult period to get to a place where we have renewable energy as our source of energy in our societies in the world. And that transition can either be very difficult or easy. And I think we all know, after, remember Mike Rupert's book, Crossing the Rubicon, where he explicitly linked what he called peak oil to 9/11 and Cheney's energy task force that he insisted upon keeping secret. So, yes, it's all linked. The foundation of the dollar in the Western economies is unfortunately based on this dark world, on the dark terrorism, on the dark oil, on the sticky, gooey, black stuff. And we've got to get away from it. And we've got to get our money based on something else.
I just want to insert this to people listening. You know, when people think of sweeping changes that can be difficult, that can be very difficult, there are those who would consciously resist in order to protect an existing system so that they do not have to suffer, so that they and their loved ones do not have to suffer in any way. I guess I just want to say, have faith in the truth. Have faith in the power of the truth and the power of goodness to and a process of change to set things straight, because otherwise you are submitting to dark forces. You are submitting to lies, a matrix of lies and deception and murder and torture and killing and war, in order to keep some sort of a illusory comfort zone. We do have to sweep away this system and submit ourselves to the process of change necessary to create a new system based in truth.
Yes, and I do recommend, by the way, with Brexit having just happened, I don't know if you're aware of this, Pam, but
talk about it. Definitely talk about it.
Well, what I was going to say about Brexit is that's the British vote, what was it, on the 23rd, and we're now on, the 26th of June of 2016, just a few days ago. Britain voted about, I think, 52% to 48%, but it was a clear victory, to leave the EU within 2 years. And some of the headlines by the people who make money in the world with money instead of with their labor. Instead of creating anything, they just make money with money. These are the 1% and the 1% of the 1%.
Right.
They're scared. They're shaking in their boots. And they're actually, there are headlines from these people in articles saying this is the end of civilization as we know it. I mean, these are extreme claims about one little country leaving the EU.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, so you could imagine what would happen if JASTA passes and the Saudis go through with their threat and they decide to renege on the early 1970s Kissinger Agreement to denominate their oil sales in dollars. I mean, Britain's move to leave the EU within 2 years after negotiations over those 2 years is nothing compared to what that would be. So I actually do recommend we need to get to the new world, and people need to be prepared. I think people should think in terms of having survival stores, water, food, money, passports to Costa Rica, whatever you think you might need, whatever the Spirit guides you. It's just an insurance policy. I think it would be wise with the Brexit vote to do that. It would just be wise. It would.
Okay.
And with the possibility of JASTA passing and all of the consequences, including unintended consequences from it. See, 9/11 truth is linked to the Saudis' threat to leave the dollar.
Right. Right.
So
right.
we want 9/11 truth, but we have to be consciously willing to take the consequences of the truth.
Right.
See, people want to have their cake and eat it too.
Well,
Most
it's
people
like
realize. Go ahead.
Well, no, you go ahead, Barbara, and I'll follow up.
Well, I was just going to say, unfortunately, most people want to try to have their cake and eat it too, and you can't. They want to.
Right.
They want to have 9/11 truth, but none of the consequences of it if it really breaks open. If 9/11 truth breaks open, JASTA bill passes, and other countries pass JASTA-like bills of their own and start indicting Bush and Cheney and Obama for their aggressive, unilateral, grotesque, illegal wars that are the highest crime under international law, under the Nuremberg Principle, for God's sake. They should be brought into foreign court. And that's what we are going to be talking about at the second day of this conference in New York City for the 15th anniversary. We're talking about, with serious people, the former Chief Justices of the Supreme Court of Italy, Danny Sheehan, who was the Chief Attorney for the New York Times in the Pentagon Papers case, Karen Silkwood case, the Iran-Contra case. These are, and William Pepper, these are serious international lawyers and serious U.S. constitutional lawyers. And we are going to be talking about having the legal rubber grip the road to bring the real perpetrators to justice. And this is serious business. It is not just truth without consequences. People in our movement have to be ready for truth, 9/11 truth, and the consequences.
Well, it's like, it's not even like, it is.
It is.
It is exactly like it is. It is a situation where, okay, you've got the mafia running your neighborhood, and they're picking up the trash, and they're getting the water, and they're doing all these things, and you're paying your rent, and then you get to a place where you say, I want to get out of this. Okay,
yeah,
there's going to be some blowback. It's going to be a cost.
There's going to be a cost.
There's going to be a cost. And you standing there at that crossroads, you're going to say one of two things. Oh, never mind. I will be your slave. I will continue to be, your puppet. Or you're gonna face consequences and do whatever it takes to get you and your loved ones out of that system. We have to face this. We have to face this. There is a criminal network running the frickin' world, Barbara. You know that better than I do.
Yeah, they're not only running the world. They're not only running the world. They were in the White House in the Bush-Cheney administration and also in the current Democrat. I mean, there's no difference between the Ronald Reagan jelly bean inside the Jimmy Carter peanut shell. It fits exactly. People are so angry with the two major political parties in this election season. They're angrier than hell, and they're not going to take it anymore. We're very, very close to some kind of revolution in this country.
We need a people's uprising, a peaceful but very powerful uprising.
And
we really do.
That it be nonviolent. It's very important that it be nonviolent.
Yes.
That it be done in a legal way, in true legal, legitimate legal venues, which is what the focus of our 15th anniversary 9/11 conference will be in New York City, September 10th and 11th. At Columbia University Faculty House. Be there. It's going to be historic. Doors open at 10 a.m. on September 10th. Saturday. See you there.
Where do people go to get that information, get their reservations and so forth?
It won't be out for even the save the date email won't go out for about another 2 weeks. We're still 2.5 months away, but it won't be too long before we're still nailing down some of the less star-studded speakers to fill out the event. So there isn't a website for the event yet, but there will be soon. I'll let you know.
Okay, there will be, and I want to let people know, if you're anxious and you want to keep updated, just keep checking our website at qmamedia.com, and we will let you know. We will post things as soon as we get them, so that
right. And I will send you the links that I mentioned sometime this evening to get up on the page with this show, so that people can see the facts for themselves and see everything that we've been referring to.
Okay. Very, very good. So, my gosh, Barbara, we've covered a lot of territory here. It's just, there's so much more to cover. And there's so much happening.
I just want to encourage people. We've come a huge, long way. The 50th anniversary is a major milestone. Every 5 years, the next major one will be the 20th. It's very important that the 9/11 truth movement, 50 years from now, like the JFK assassination truth movement, isn't still trying to break through to officialdom.
Right.
Very important that we officialize what we already know about the forensic facts and the official lies of 9/11. And that's what the whole legal event in New York City on September 11th, on Sunday, the entire day, morning to evening, is going to be with some of the most powerful attorneys in the world.
Okay. So exciting. It's just, it's so beautiful.
And it will be live streamed, by the way.
Okay, that's important.
Streamed, and it will be videotaped. There's discussion of making a documentary based upon the videotape, although that's more problematic because what's the last movie you saw that you got really excited about that was film taken from a conference?
Well, yeah, we do have a lot of it. We do have some exciting conferences out there. Now, I want you at this point, at this juncture, having said what you said, to talk about something that you've been passionate about and encouraging people to participate in, and that is for the witnesses to be, notarized. Talk about that, so that anybody listening, they know somebody.
After that, I do need to go. After that.
Okay.
All right. So I touched on that a moment ago. What is critical to do is to what I call officialize the forensic facts that we already know for sure about 9/11, and to officialize the exposure of the official lies of 9/11, of the official story. So they're two sides of the same coin. And one of the key ways that you do that is for anyone listening to this program. If you are a witness, if you have any inside knowledge of the planning, execution, and or cover-up of the 9/11 attacks, or any of the other false flag terror attacks since 9/11 or before, World Trade Center attack and World Trade Center 1 in 1993, Oklahoma City, any of them, but especially 9/11, which is the mother of all terror attacks. If you have any inside knowledge, what's important is that you officialize your knowledge. And the way you do that is ideally you would contact someone in the truth movement like Pam or myself or Richard Gage of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. But you don't even need to do that as the first step. The first step is to write down everything you can remember. The next step is to type it up. Make it double-spaced. The next step, at the bottom of all those pages that you've typed up of your official testimony and recollection, is to have a paragraph to the effect that you swear to the truth of it, to the best of your knowledge, recollection, and ability. And then you don't sign it yet. You leave a line for your signature and the date. And you take those pages, you make copies of them for yourself, and you take the original into a notary public. And a notary public, not all notary publics are able or willing to take what is called a sworn jurat affidavit. That's J-U-R-A-T. So you find it, you call up some notary publics in your yellow pages, and you find one that does sworn jurat affidavits. So what you do when you find that notary public, which will only cost you $20 or $25, at least that's the cost here in California, the mid-coast in California, you take in your documents, you take in your ID, like your driver's license, and before you sign what you've typed up as your sworn testimony, before you sign it, you raise your hand, and you state out loud what's in that final paragraph. I swear to the truth of this, to the best of my knowledge, recollection, and ability, whatever language you want, and add the words under penalty of perjury. You spontaneously and consciously add that to the type. And then in front of the notary public, you sign it, and then the notary public is going to put a special stamp at the bottom. That is a sworn jurat affidavit notary public stamp. And they're going to take your fingerprint, and they're going to put their seal on it. And then they're going to give it back to you. They're going to record it in their book. And when they do that, that document, at least in California, becomes an official state of California record. It becomes an official document. That's all you need to do, $25. And then you make copies of it, and you get it to people in the 9/11 Truth movement who are willing to take it into court. The very kind of people who are the high-level, world-class attorneys who are going to be speaking on September 11th in New York City at our 15th anniversary conference. So if you're a witness, bring your sworn jurat affidavit with you, bring copies of it, bring the original, and meet with the attorneys who are going to be at the 15th anniversary conference in New York City. And we will go from there, and you would then also have to be willing to be a witness in court. But believe me, that sworn jurat affidavit being now officialized makes your testimony an official document, an official government document. And that makes all the difference in terms of opening the minds of those who can then use it in a court case to bring the real perpetrators to justice. So with that, okay. Pam, I'm going to have to wish you a good afternoon.
All right, dear. All right. Very good. Very good. Okay. Love you.
Love you, too. Talk to you again soon.
Okay. Take care, dear. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.